5, right? That's the reference.
Is that right? Did
That's
they use
what
that
that
one?
song is, isn't it?
Start Me Up.
It's a
Well, it's a
song
Rolling
by...
Stones song.
No, you could have gone along with the joke, dude. I was gonna go like it's a Bill Gates song and like.
So Patrick, lean
I
back
ruined
just
it.
a little bit. You see, let me go back to you. Like lean back, because I noticed that when you move toward the screen, not that far back, like upright. Can you? Because like when you move forward, your face gets cut off and it looks like you're trying to mug the camera a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the camera is a new Logitech camera that is kind of too
close.
Is it a C920 still?
No. Well, I'm still in Paris and I got another one, so I didn't need to open the Mac every time I wanted to do a show with video. And it's a cheaper Logitech and it's a little bit...
like a 910 or something?
No, not even. It's like a 540.
It's a Logitech Zero.
Yes.
It's a Logitech camera.
I can't put it farther. No, it doesn't work. You can see part of my head if you want.
You look like Wilson from Home Improvement. Was that show? Home Improvement.
I never watched Home Improvement much. I think I saw it a few times.
It says not Tim Meadows. It's a comedian.
All right, Roger, you're going to try to keep pace with the lightning round with the screens. I'm impressed. Let's do this.
Don't go too fast.
We got to go fast, though.
That's what she said. Don't go too fast.
It's also that's what he said. That was Roger.
Yeah, but it's not as funny.
I'm obviously not very funny today. Well, I couldn't remember if Start Me Up was Windows 95 or Windows 98.
It was 95 because it was the first time the start
button
button
that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just raining on your parade. Let's go at 10:55. Give people 2 minutes to join on in. Get so much CES. We've got to start, or more things will break.
Yeah.
I also already didn't put the Asus Vivo PCX in.
Honestly, all of those laptops, it's a little bit whatever.
Yeah. I kind of threw them in there to kind of make that point, to be honest. The Vivo is a desktop, though. It's a compact VR desktop. Okay. Let's roll. Patrick, I have but one question for you.
I was born ready.
Damn, how'd you know? You're born psychic.
I was born both of those things.
I was born all of the things. All right. I keep thinking it's going to flip to 10:55. Not that I'm like on the atomic clock here, but
I think at some point, well, you might be on the atomic clock. Isn't that what the internet uses to? Oh, there you go.
All right, here we go.
This show is brought to you by audience members like me, not outside organizations. To find out more, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, January 3rd, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt. Patrick Beja alongside from France this time, and we have a little bit of CES news, Patrick.
Yeah, it's started. It's happening. It's happening already. CES has started.
So as CES starts Thursday, all of the press announcements are raining upon us today, and we're going to share some of the ones we find most interesting off the top. We're going to have some top stories about CES and other announcements to discuss, and then you're going to talk about a cloud PC service you've been trying out called Shadow, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, we'll discuss things. There are pros and cons, but all of them are interesting. So
all right. So before we get to the top stories, it's time for the temporary feature CES Lightning Round. We're going to move through these really fast, folks. We'll each read the headline, and then the other person gets up to 5 words to react. Are you ready, Patrick?
You know, I was born ready, so
Of course.
yes.
Here we go. Robocook announced the Leader, no E, wireless mouse with virtually zero latency.
They're not the first ones. The 3D Rudder Wireless is a foot-powered VR mouse that moves you. That moves you the direction you tilt it with your feet. Coming in spring for $199 for Oculus Vive and Gear VR.
I'm afraid I'll fall. GE's Wi-Fi oven now works with Nest, so if the Nest Protect smoke alarm senses smoke, it can tell the oven to shut down.
I want a Robocook. Linksys joined Eero, Luma, Plume, Google, and Netgear with a set of mesh Wi-Fi routers. A 3 units bundle of the Villap routers costs $499 for pre-orders today and in stores January 15th.
They look like small buildings.
They do.
Dongfang Global introduced 4K TVs under its Westinghouse, Element, and Seiki brands, ranging in 4 sizes from 43 inches to 65 inches, running Amazon's Fire TV OS and Amazon Voice services. Available later this year, no price.
I want a 4K TV now.
That's good.
Is that 6 words? Damn it. Echo announced 2 of its Android-powered bicycles with 4-inch touchscreens are coming to the US in Q2. No price was announced.
I want to ride bicycles. Mayfield Robotics began taking pre-orders for its $700 Kuri robot for shipping later in the year. It roams the house with a 1080p camera, dual speakers, 4 mics, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth, as well as support for IFT.
Does it cook? HP announced the 15.6-inch 4K Spectre X360 will be 1.9 millimeters thicker than the previous model in order to add 3 more hours of claimed battery life for a total of 12 hours, 45 minutes. It's expected to arrive February 26th, starting at $1,278.
I like more battery life. Good work, HP. EvLeaks spotted a leaked blog post from Qualcomm describing its 10-nanometer Snapdragon 835 processor with 25% faster graphics, VR optimization, and 40% less power usage under load.
Awesome graphics on mobile. Dell announced a new Kaby Lake Inspiron 7000 laptop starting at $799 and new Alienware laptops with Kaby Lake and 4K, including the Alienware 17 with the GTX 1080. All models will be available starting January 5th.
It's all about Kaby Lake. Asus announced a refresh to its laptops and desktops with Kaby Lake processors and 4K support, available now or in May 2017, depending on the model.
That's way too light. Thankfully, Acer's 17.6-pound 20-inch Predator 21X laptop will cost $8,999 when it ships in February. Among the highlights specs are at that price are the 64 gigabytes of RAM, gigabytes. I'm always confused by this.
Yeah.
Gigabytes of RAM, dual GTX 1080 video cards, Tobii eye tracking 4, 512 gigabytes solid state drives in a RAID stripe. The company also introduced the 2,599 Predator 17X with only one GTX 1080 and a refresh of the Aspire 5 Nitro laptops.
$8,999. That's just too much.
But you get 17.6 pounds of it. If
power.
You count by the pound,
yeah,
I think it's
no, it's worth every penny and pound, penny per pound. Anyway, here are some more top stories. Intel announced the full range of its 7th generation Kaby Lake processors with slightly higher clock speeds than the previous Skylake chips. Integrated GPUs can handle 10-bit HEVC H.265 video and decode 8-bit VP9 streams, meaning 4K playback on a wider variety of machines, essentially. They support HDMI 2.0 and HDCP 2.2 for 4K output at 60 Hz, although no improvement on the Thunderbolt support for 60 Hz. New motherboards are Intel Optane memory ready, supporting the faster forthcoming Intel Crosspoint storage drives. So essentially, this is a minor upgrade to Skylake, but it adds some 4K if that's your thing.
And H.265 video is kind of cool as well. It's good that it's the kind of thing that you don't really need initially when it's introduced, but once everyone has it and the video players start using it, you get better quality for less bandwidth, which in today's world, bandwidth is a precious commodity.
Well, and as we heard in that CES Lightning Round, Kaby Lake is the upgrade. Like, there are several announcements happening today, as you may have noticed, that are just, hey, here's the same line as before with maybe a couple of spec tweaks, but Kaby Lake processors. Like, that is the big thing. And it's not really that much of a performance increase. Like, the TikTok of Intel is no longer there. Like, this is a half tick, so to speak.
Is Moore's Law definitely dying?
No, man, we need a whole other show for that one.
Yeah.
I don't know if this means that, but it's Moore's Law is definitely not as spry as it used to be.
Right. It's a little bit ailing. Maybe it might be revitalized at some point, but
maybe. We got the 10 nanometer Qualcomm chip out there, so there you go.
That's true. On mobile, it's going great.
Yep.
So it's all Intel's failing, is what you're saying, Tom. Intel messes up again.
No, that is not what I'm saying.
DTNS host Tom Merritt. It's not. Okay. Dish announced the AirTV set-top box running Android TV that can integrate over-the-air channels into its Sling TV channel guide. It can also run all Android TV apps and comes with Netflix and YouTube pre-installed. The Bluetooth remote has voice control and infrared for controlling sound systems. The AirTV is available today for $130 or $100 without the antenna adapter. You can buy the adapter later for $40.
So you pay a $10 penalty if you don't buy the adapter right away. But the key for this is that adapter. If you're a cord cutter who says, shoot, I get good over-the-air reception, and I've been looking for an easy way to integrate that with an over-the-internet television service like Sling TV, and you like Sling TV's off rating, it gives you the channels you want, there's a lot of ifs here, then this is a brilliant product. Because I have this situation myself. Although I prefer PlayStation View, let's say I wanted to use Sling TV, and I have good over-the-air reception, which I do. Right now, I'm using TiVo to watch my over-the-air channels. I could just integrate them right here into the AirTV. The problem is you don't get the DVR capability on Sling TV yet, and it's unclear whether those over-the-air channels could be DVR'd and recorded, because this box, it doesn't have a lot of storage in it.
Also, if, as you said, you're a cord cutter that says shoot, it's impressive because you live in the 50s. So good on you for cord cutting back then.
Thank you. Sam Byford at The Verge got a look at a prototype of Lenovo's first VR headset designed to work with the Windows holographic platform. Headset features two 1440 by 1440 OLED panels, aims to be about 40% lighter than the HTC Vive. The system has two outward-facing cameras for mixed reality applications and doesn't need those external cameras for head tracking like the Vive or the Oculus. Lenovo plans to ship the finished device this year sometime, priced between $300 to $400. So it's cheaper, it's lighter, and it's easier to set up. And those aren't bad panels. This is very intriguing. Now, Lenovo also announced its Legion gaming laptops. The 15.6-inch Y720 has a 4K option, Dolby Atmos sound, GTX 1060 video card, i5 and i7 Kaby Lake processors, 16 gigs of RAM, one USB-C port, a few USB 3 ports, HDMI, VGA, DisplayPort, 60-watt-hour battery. You can also get an optional integrated Xbox One wireless receiver that can handle up to 4 controllers. And then there's the Y720 available in April starting at $1,399. Okay, then what I meant to say is then there's the Y520, which has similar specs but only offers the 1050 from NVIDIA, the 1050 Ti, no 4K option or Thunderbolt support. That one's available earlier. It's coming in February at $899. So that's more of a casual gaming machine, but it's a lot cheaper. Lenovo also announced a home speaker with Amazon Voice Services. It's got 8 mics, can handle commands up to 16 feet away. $129 coming in May, or you can get one with a Harman Kardon speaker for $179. And Lenovo announced updates to the Mix line. It now has a Mix 720 detachable and a bunch of new ThinkPad X1s, including a silver ThinkPad X1. And all of those have Kaby Lake processors in them as well.
So lots of laptops. I think by now we get the theme of this show. Lots of laptops.
Get those laptops announcements out. Yeah.
But their VR headset is really interesting because it works with the Windows holographic platform. So it means it does mixed reality and, all of those holographic things through the cameras, I'm guessing. And it's a lot cheaper than Microsoft's HoloLens, but of course that has the computer integrated into the headset.
And that's the developer version. It's kind of priced to keep the consumer away from it, I feel like.
Yeah, probably. But it's still, it's a lot cheaper. It's cheaper than a simple VR headset.
For sure. Yeah.
I'm wondering if this isn't going to start pushing people. Forget about the holographic platform side of it. It's still a VR headset for $300 to $400, which is half the price of the other contestants. So I'm wondering if Oculus and HTC or Valve aren't going to have to react to these headsets, because this is just the first one. I'm guessing we're going to see a lot more.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of these at CES. And don't forget vaporware alert at CES. Whenever they say coming this year, they don't even give you a quarter and no price, my alarm bells start to ring. So I'm not saying Lenovo won't ship it, but it's very vague at this point.
Mm-hmm. Ford announced plans to build a range of electric and hybrid vehicles over the next 5 years. That includes a 4,300-mile range electric sub.
Sorry, that should be SUV. That's my own
SUV. Oh, right. SUV.
They're not coming out with a submarine, folks. My mistake.
A sub would be fun as well. Yeah. A hybrid F-150 truck and Mustang in 2020, and a fully autonomous electric car to debut in 2021. In fact, Ford says it plans high-volume production for the autonomous car. Ford will build the cars in Flat Rock, Michigan. Hybrid vehicles designed for police use will be built in Chicago.
So tons of announcements here, some of them sort of angling towards hey, we're not going to build that plant in Mexico. We're going to put the cars in the United States, which is, something that is becoming a common theme these days to win some applause in the press. But there's also this idea that a fully autonomous electric car fleet, like high volume production, will happen in 2021. And okay, that's 4 years away. It's not right around the corner, but I keep getting varying estimates. So there's lots of people who know this space very well saying autonomous cars are much farther away than you think. But then we keep seeing Nutonomy's trying them on the streets. They're not perfect yet. Uber's trying them on the streets. They're not perfect yet. Google is expanding where they try theirs. And then you see Ford saying, yeah, we're going to have fully autonomous. Now, does that mean level 5, level 4, level 3? They don't specify that. But we're getting close. Everybody's saying they're getting closer to autonomous cars than most of the experts say that we're going to get. And so I'm curious how this all shakes out.
Well, yeah, 2021, to be honest, it seems very close. But at the same time, if we look at where autonomous cars were 2 years ago, I don't think we would have thought that we would have gone that far in just 2 years.
Yeah.
So 4 years away is kind of a lifetime. So I don't know, but we can't say it's not going to happen.
And this is the first of a raft of automotive announcements that will happen at CES around autonomous cars and electric cars too. I don't mean to diminish the announcement of all these electric vehicles either. The focus that Ford has, I think, is going to be the focus of all these announcements, which is these will be really easy to charge. We're going to try to make it easy for people so they don't have to worry about where and how they're going to charge these. And I'm curious how that plays out too. Some really sad news. 2 Texas parents are suing Apple after their 5-year-old daughter was killed when a driver rear-ended them. The driver admitted to the police that he was talking on FaceTime during the accident. James and Bethany Modisette seek damages for, quote, the defendant's wrongful failure to install and implement the safer alternative design for which it sought a patent in December 2008. And the U.S. Patent Office did issue a patent to Apple in April 2014 for a method to lock users out of FaceTime while driving.
Yeah, so this is kind of a difficult one to comment, but I suspect, I mean, if the issue is that the patent, the technology works, but can't, for example, differentiate between the driver and a passenger, it would make sense that Apple wouldn't install it. My initial reaction is you sue the driver, not the company that made the phone. That makes more sense. But at the same time, ultimately, the goal is to have safer, lives for everyone as a society. So if that helps in this, maybe, but we don't have enough details.
Well, it's not an either or. The driver is facing charges of manslaughter, so it's not like they're letting him off the hook to go after Apple. They are, in addition to that, pursuing charges against Apple, saying yes, no, he is responsible and he should, pay for his crime, but Apple should have done more to stop this from being possible. And we can get into all kinds of conversations of what the responsibilities of a corporation are, but it is very interesting to me that they had a patent to do this. And so is it incumbent on somebody who has a patent on a safety mechanism to implement that mechanism?
Especially since if they do have that's way too complex, but if they do have the patent, does it mean that no one else can use it? Can implement that technology, and they don't.
Does it? It has to be licensed on fair, reasonable, right, et cetera, on those FRAND terms. I would assume would be one resolution to that. But yeah, I'm curious what people think about this. Whether and I know your instinct is going to be say, hey, the driver should be responsible, like Patrick did, and he will be. That is going to happen. So it's not like they're going just after Apple instead. Should they also be going after Apple for not implementing this safety measure? And my heart goes out to these 2 parents. It's horrible.
Of course. I think it's really easy to take this and see the outrageous nature of it, thinking, yeah, it's not Apple's responsibility. But in the same, there's one story about a lady that got coffee at McDonald's and sued because it was too hot, and actually, it spilled on her hands, and she got, 3rd-degree burns or something. And the story there is that the coffee made there was purposefully made hotter than it should be for, different reasons. So there was a case. So yeah. I'm wondering if the complexity of it makes it less outrageous in this case as well.
Yeah, it makes it maybe makes it less dismissible.
Yeah. And finally, Quartz reports that Fukoku Mutual Life Insurance, I Japanized the name here, life insurance will replace 34 human insurance claim workers with IBM Watson Explorer starting in January 2017. Watson can scan records and documents to determine insurance payouts faster, improving productivity by 30%. The system will cost about $1.7 million to install, and then $128,000 a year for maintenance.
So it's going to save this company money. It's going to be efficient, and it is going to put people out of work in this case. Now, this has been the question. If AI comes in and takes away jobs, will it actually reduce employment, or will those people be moved to things they can do more productively now that they don't have to spend time doing the grunt work? And in this case, it will be very interesting to see who remains with Fukoku Mutual Life Insurance of those 34 jobs, who gets let go. And I don't know if anyone will follow up on this, but if there are people let go because of this, because of those 34 jobs being replaced, what do those people do? Are they able to find other jobs? And this is the question of the day. As AI comes in, in the grand scheme of things, largely what happens is over time, as new technologies replace drudge work, we find new things for people to do because, there's a certain amount of economy that doesn't go away when a job goes away. It just makes it easier for people, right? So we don't have to nail nails into things in factories anymore. We have robots to do that, but factory workers have gone on to do more productive things and make things for cheaper, et cetera, et cetera. But in that transition time is when it can cause problems for individual people who maybe don't have the right skills to move to another job. So I'm fascinated by this report.
The really interesting thing here, I think, is the level of work that is being replaced. This is not, nailing. This isn't like assembly. It's actually reading, it's scanning, but in essence, the job of the workers that were doing it before was reading documents, understanding them, deciding, how the payout would happen, if it would happen, things like that, if there was a mistake. So it will be interesting to see if Watson can do it faster, because this is high level work. And I'm thinking, we used to think that some jobs were safe from computers, but with AI, no one is safe. Are we, Tom?
There are things that are safe. There are things that AI can't do. We can exaggerate what AI can do. And yeah, I mean, that's like saying robots can do everything too. And so we don't need people to do any manual labor. And obviously that's not true. So that has yet to be determined. Like, what are the things that humans just are better at because we have more intuitive thinking and we can make relationships faster? And at what point will AI get to that? Eventually, maybe, but we're talking huge timescales. But this mental drudgery work is what Watson is starting to replace. And that is a large sector of employment right now. These are jobs, these people would have been doing manual labor jobs before the Industrial Revolution took place, before steam power and electric power. And so what we did is over time, we found jobs that say, oh, okay, well, now we can have people do these sorts of things. Like the movie Hidden Figures showed how computers were people that actually did the calculations, and they eventually got replaced by computers. But what happened is a lot of those people moved on to being able to administer the computers. So that's going to happen over time.
I'm just looking forward to a time when I can do the show with Robo-Tom, since, it will be able to replace you. I think my job is safe because the lovely, very light accent is difficult to replicate. So I'm confident I'm not going to be replaced. So it's fine.
I don't know about that. I bet a shadow PC could work on something like that. Hey, folks, to get all the tech headlines for each day in less than 10 minutes, subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. And now let's talk about Shadow PC. There have been a lot of virtual PCs out there for a long time. You can use VMware Parallels. You can rent Amazon Workspaces and get virtual desktops in the cloud. Roger was saying before the show that there have always been people renting virtual machines so they could run torrents without getting tracked. There are now, however, a growing number of cloud PC providers. Some of them providing office PCs for people, some of them providing things like CAD design. If you can't afford to always have the latest computer, you can subscribe to a computer that can do CAD and then work on it from anywhere, including a tablet if you want. And you have been using one that seems to be designed for low latency things like gaming.
Right. So this is a French company. They just started their early birds offering. So they launched commercially. I'm paying for it, and the early birds are paying for it. But it is still very early in the development cycle. They're hoping to launch for the public in March. I'm thinking they're still going to be relatively limited when they do. So keep in mind that I've tried it a few hours. It is still early, and the software needs to be improved significantly. But the way the thing works is that they have at the moment a number of PCs in their offices, in their data centers, and they're renting to you for about 30 euros or 40 euros, depending how long you're going to be subscribed. That PC that you can then access with a thin client. And the thin client is currently a physical box, and they will have apps in the future on basically all platforms for you to access that PC. So it comes installed with Windows installed, and then you can do anything you want. You can install whatever piece of software you want to, including games. And the thing they're doing at the moment is trying to show that this isn't a PC in the cloud that's going to work for maybe if you have something slow, if you're going to be browsing, if you're going to be using, an office suite or things like that. It can do actual gaming at a higher level. And the key piece of experience I got out of it is how low the latency is. Basically, they said so when they were doing their communications round earlier in the year, but I didn't believe them. It's the kind of thing where you don't believe that a PC that is distant across the internet can have basically no latency. And honestly, I've played the game that I like the most currently, which is Overwatch, and I've played it for an hour or two, and I could not have told you that I was playing on a distant PC. Now, granted, I might not be the fastest reflex person in the world. I play, maybe 100 millisecond ping.
It might not work for a pro esports gamer.
Maybe,
really
but they've tried.
But yeah,
they've tried with other, esports players, and many of them have said I couldn't really tell the difference. The way they do that is that they have basically guaranteed peering agreements with, through different different companies, but they guarantee very low latency with the main French ISPs, and they require that you have a fiber connection at the moment and that you use Ethernet connection for your client. That's what's happening now. In the future, you might use Wi-Fi, you might use, I'm going to be back in Finland at some point. I'm going to test it from there. We'll see how it works. The really important thing, though, as I was saying, was in these ideal conditions, I couldn't feel the latency. And that is an incredible achievement. Some people will say, well, it doesn't work over ADSL. It doesn't work for this or that kind of application. But already the fact that you're using that technology that we've seen for a while now, of transmitting video to you for whatever service, and that it does work even in specific conditions without latency or without perceived latency is incredible. That doesn't necessarily mean that it will work commercially, though. This is the technology side of it. Commercially, I'm wondering, Tom, would you be interested in maybe, you travel a little bit, you might not want to have to upgrade your PC, even if, you don't travel. You pay $30, let's say, or $40 a month for a PC, and that's the other thing. They upgrade it. They will, at least. That's the promise. They will upgrade it on a yearly basis or so with
as new technology comes out.
As new technology comes out.
Okay.
So, would you pay for an always up-to-date PC $40 or $30 a year, a month? Sorry.
Do you need a gigabit connection or just a fiber connection?
You need a fiber connection. Currently, they're ready for 4K, and I saw in their offices a version of 4K which is ridiculously, fast as well, just as fast as 1080p. But you don't need gigabit. You just need fiber for latency rather than bandwidth. I think. Okay. Depending on the quality you set, you'll need between 10 and 50 megabits per second down.
Oh, wow. Okay, that low.
So 50 is 4K, and 4K probably with relatively high quality. Even 4K can be done lower, but let's say 10 is reasonable.
So the magic is mostly done on the fact that fiber has some latency advantages, and they've struck deals. By the way, not to get into net neutrality, but whenever you hear about specialized services, when there's net neutrality debates, this is an example, right? Where they've struck a deal with the ISP and said, hey, we want to make sure that these packets get in there without latency.
Wait a second. They've struck a deal. I know it's a third party. I'm not sure they're
I'm not, well, like I said, I don't want to get into the net neutrality debate, but this is an example of a specialized service. And I'm not saying that these, I don't mean to imply that these agreements violate net neutrality somehow at all. But when you're talking about specialized services, this is one where it says, hey, ISP, we need to make sure our packets get in here. What can we do? And there's lots of ways to do that without violating net neutrality. But that said, that's where the magic happens, right? Because if you can do this on a 50 megabit per second connection, like there's lots of people in the US with 50 megabit per second cable connections, right? They just would need a fiber connection, and fiber is slowly rolling out in more areas.
Actually, let me stop you. Sorry.
Sure.
The service I'm using at home is actually cable connection. It's not
really?
fiber. Yeah. And it's again,
But
it's
it still
working
worked.
pretty well. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's working really well. They're also developing, and that we have to wait and see how it works. But down the line, they're thinking they might be able to make it work on ADSL even, possibly. Yeah, that's. I mean, I'll
that's
believe
striking.
it when I
That's
see
striking
it,
some very specialized transit deals, et cetera. And I'm very curious how that works. But getting back to your question, which I've been avoiding up till now, would I pay for that? And it's very compelling. I love the idea of saying, "Hey, all my data is available everywhere." There's a company called Paperspace, which does virtual desktop storage and Linux terminals, and there's a company called ZeroPC that does content navigation for the cloud, and they both basically say keep all your data in one place and access it from anywhere. And I love that idea. It's one of the reasons I try to use cloud services where they are secure and responsible, so I don't have to think about, oh, that's on that drive and I need to plug that drive into this machine now. And I love that idea. That said, I'm still such a Luddite when it comes to connectivity that I want to have at least my most important data available locally if there isn't an internet connection. And that would be the tripping up factor for me, where I'd say, I also want to have my data locally. And I suppose you could do that. You could just mirror data, have a 2 terabyte hard drive in your laptop and then use this service. But then you're kind of getting rid of the advantage, which is, hey, you can get a $100 Chromebook but have a super powerful PC because your PC's in the cloud.
Yeah, I think there are a number of questions there. The price is definitely going to be one. Are they going to have cheaper versions that might be interesting? How well the Android and iOS apps are going to work? How well the Mac app is going to work? Maybe some people are going to use it to get a gaming device somewhere, and just because the Mac is obviously not a gaming device, as we all know, unfortunately. So there are a number of questions there, but I think if it works, let's say down the line, initially it only works with fiber, and then down the line 2-3 years from now, it works reasonably enough that you can do most tasks even on a wireless, a mobile connection if you're traveling. And you don't necessarily need, maybe you won't be able to play a demanding competitive game like a Street Fighter or a first-person shooter, but even a slower game is perfectly fine. They're trying to show we can do these super demanding things in these conditions, but really what it's saying is anything that is a little bit less demanding is probably not going to be a problem. So 2-3 years down the line, you only have a very thin client. You can access this from anywhere. It's kind of thinking about it the same way you think about your data with Dropbox or Google Drive, or
And when you think about it, a lot of the games you play these days need a connection anyway, like Super Mario Run, for interest.
For example.
Yeah. So you get ubiquitous 5G connections. You get decent Wi-Fi now available in hotels more often. You've got Wi-Fi on more planes. If that all pans out, if like 5G is available everywhere, we get like planes in the sky from Google and Facebook, blanketing us. We've got satellite services blanketing us. If we get to that point, which is probable within the next 5 to 10 years, then I'm all in on this, because what I would want at that point is a Chromebook-like machine with a 5 terabyte hard drive inside, so my data is local and I can still access it when I need to. But all these services and things that I need to be online for anyway are available 99% of the time, because there's very few situations anymore in that future that I've described where I wouldn't have some kind of connectivity.
Well, I think, even for the data that you think is local, I'm wondering how much of that is actually going to be an issue. We're old people. It's almost like 5 to 10 years, hopefully we're going to have such ubiquitous connections that you don't think about electricity in that way, right?
Yeah,
You're
right.
not thinking I'm going to keep my paper records in case the electricity suddenly runs out and I can't access my computer records. So in that world, which might happen sooner than we think, I'm wondering if there isn't a financial, very concretely thinking for myself, I don't want to have to bother with upgrading the computer. I don't want to have to bother with, thinking about the hardware failures or whatever. I'm going to rent it just the way that I rent Netflix or Spotify or those services.
TVZ Gun did the math. The Predator 21X, the $9,000 laptop, would buy you 25 years of shadow PC service.
Well, the Predator, he's talking about, is probably a little bit more powerful, but then in 3 years, it's not going to be as powerful.
Right,
and,
exactly.
And I don't think these kinds of services, we're talking about Shadow because they have this impressive demo of the lag-free experience that just launched now. I mean, literally, it was launched 4 days ago. So we have to understand that this is a very early version of the service. But I really think that it's not going to be for everyone, and you're always going to have people who are going to say, but I need my data, or I need my games to have zero lag or things like that. But I think some people might like this. And again, I was in their offices when I got my box, and they showed me the way you log in. It was kind of magical to just log in from a TV and then log in from a laptop and log in from a phone. I don't know how practical it is to have a phone logged into your PC, but it worked so fast. It was like 2 seconds to log in, faster than Netflix. I don't know if that's the way it's going to work when it's commercially available, but all of this brings unexpected advantages that I think might be interesting for some people at least.
And W. Scottus 1 points out data caps would be a sticking point too.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So any service that has data caps on it is going to be problematic unless those data caps become sky high. Maybe your data cap is 1,000 terabytes it's a petabyte data cap, and then it's like, oh, okay, well that will work. Or like electricity, the rate is low enough that you're willing to pay for it. But Lau Roman in the chat room points out, like, you're going to have to consider any extra cost you would need to make this service work on your internet service side. If a 50 megabit per second cable connection that you already subscribe to works with this, and you don't have a data cap on that, that's great. But there's still the mobile aspect of it and what other connections you'll need, et cetera. And those business models are changing as well. So as this becomes more feasible and as connectivity becomes more widespread, there may be more competition, and what we get charged for internet is going to change over time. There's a battle for that happening. So there's so many moving parts to this situation.
Yeah, it's still very early on. The reason I didn't even really mention data caps is that we don't have them in France. We're a civilized country.
Well, you don't have them on mobile?
On mobile, we do, yes.
Yeah, okay. So, and I think that's where most people are familiar with them, even in the United States.
Right. Of course. But I mean, mobile is such a down the line question with these services.
But if I'm going to rely on my computer to have all of it in the cloud, I'm going to have to data.
I don't know that you do. I mean, your computer.
I don't want to go to the coffee shop, or I don't want to go. I don't want to go out and about and be like, oh, my computer doesn't work because I don't have data. Like I can't
right. Of course. Initially, it's only for local fiber connection. Once again, it's early days. They basically tell you, in order to use the service, you need fiber connections. Period. So they're not even supporting anything else at the moment. So
although you were using them, so that's good. It's a good sign. Well, Shadow PC, it's a French company, so only available in France right now, but we'll have some links to some other similar services if you want to take a look and compare if you happen to not be in France. We also, Veronica asked yesterday if any listeners in the audience knew about ways that you could track people for marijuana use. If there's any technology similar to the breathalyzer for marijuana use, now that marijuana use is becoming more legalized. And we got a couple of responses. One said they were listening to Monday's episode, and they wanted to note that CBC's Quirks and Quarks discussed this recently. The TLDR is something is coming, but it's not there yet. And then a law enforcement guy named Mike, who I had the pleasure of meeting in Florida when I was down there for CreateCon, said that DUI, DWI laws will work with new marijuana regulations. Here in Florida, where I work as a law enforcement officer, the laws are written around an officer's observations, not necessarily based on the number you blow during a breath test. And so he says that could be applied to marijuana as well, the TLDR version. And thank you, by the way, folks, for including TLDRs in your emails. That you guys are fantastic. He says the TLDR version is that the breath test is a confirmation of the officer's observations, not the sole determination of intoxication. And he's got a great email that you can read more on this in our show notes at dailytechnewsshow.com. So there you go. The answer is no tech yet for that sort of thing, but also not necessary for law enforcement.
And what I will add to that conversation is that I'm looking forward to my next trip to California.
You don't have to go to Colorado now? Is that what you're saying? You're not going to visit Brian Ibbett?
I'd never want to visit Brian Ibbett. Of course,
man. Of course you do. Well, thank you, Patrick Beja, for joining us. You've got lots going on. Phileas Club, Le Rendezvous Tech. What is there to tell people about specifically today?
Well, I guess I'll tell you about Le Rendezvous Tech for once. It's a French show, and I have a number of people listening to that show just for practicing French. Some might have learned earlier in life, and some might be in need of practice right now. And I just got an email about a lovely listener who said they loved the latest episode we made and that it helps them practice and improve even their French language. So if you're interested in that, just go to, well, you can check out the Rendezvous Tech on any podcasting app or platform, but on FrenchSpin.com is where you'll find the main source for the show.
Go and check it out. I have to say, I for one can attest that if you're already listening to this show and you're familiar with the topics, it's easier to understand another language talking about those same topics, because, you know, when you say Facebook in French, you say Facebook, right? And so that helps give you context, and then you start to figure out other words that maybe would have been lost or gone by too fast because you're not working as hard to have to figure those parts out. So yeah, if you're interested in technology and interested in practicing or fine-tuning your French, or you already speak French, then I highly recommend that you pick up Le Rendezvous Tech.
Thank you.
FrenchSpin.fr, right?
Yeah, for the French shows, and FrenchSpin.com for the English shows. But yeah, English language. I don't actually start using an English accent for that.
I wish you would, though. Big thanks to everybody who supports us. There's so many ways to support. dailytechnewsshow.com/support, especially at this time of year. If a lot of finances are tight. I get that. So if you're able to swing a few dollars our way to keep us going, we super appreciate it. Welcome to Michael Couch and Eric Adler. And thank you to Erwin Wessels, who just increased his pledge. You guys are the best. And so are every single person who are among our bosses supporting us at dailytechnewsshow.com or on patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday. Tomorrow we'll be live at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, and then on Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, then back to 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Friday. DiamondClub.tv and dailytechnewsshow.com. See you tomorrow with Scott Johnson and hopefully Patrick Norton. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Ooh, I got scared for a second when you said Patrick.
I know, and I actually had to stop myself from saying Beja just out of habit. Patrick, not that Patrick, different Patrick. Not Patrick.
Let me see. It's Showbutt. So top title is Step on That Mouse, followed by Robocook. Everything's coming up Cabby Lake, whatever. I give up. Do AIs dream of climbing the corporate ladder? Can I get bot insurance? The future of gaming, the cloud's the limit. What else do they got? Feel the latency-free cloud gaming. Winter at Cabby Lake, 8K, sir.
My vote goes to I Want a Robocook.
Okay.
And I'm actually going to go.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks
Thank you,
for
guys. Bye. See you next
Have
week.
a good rest of your day.
Have a nice CES.
I'll try.
Bye.
Fingers crossed. I want a Robocook is good by me.
cool.
We can let
Done.
people vote for a little bit though. See if something else bubbles up.
Bubbles.
Toils and
Bubbles like
troubles.
bad Chinese food in your stomach.
Ew. Why would I want that?
I don't know. Maybe you're a tester for Pepto-Bismol.
And that does not sound like a job I would want.
I remember watching a show that went over all the jobs people didn't think were because when you were talking about new jobs,
Uh-huh.
and they're just going a bunch of all these odd jobs, and one of them was this woman who had to smell these guys' armpits. They were like lined up in a row, and they had different deodorant on, and they did physical activity, and she would have to smell their armpits and then mark down, like, was it stinky or whatever, and it's just like what a job.
Yeah. Well, and that seems like, I mean, you could make an argument for replacing any human job with a technology if you give yourself the idea of like, well, eventually we'll invent something that will do that. That's a job that would be harder to replace because what you want is, does this offend humans? And you can approximate that with technology eventually, I'm sure, and say, oh, well, we've identified the things that usually offend and we'll just detect levels of those. But the best way to do it, the most solid way to do it, is to actually use humans, right? Because then you're saying, oh, well, we took several humans, and what a horrible job, though.
Yeah, I wonder how many of those jobs dirty jobs that Mike Rowe did for that show.
I was trying to think of this example when we were talking about that during the show, and I forgot it, but the sort of trend, and we poke fun at it, of artisan made, craftsman made things is a direction that humans go after automation, which is to say, like, there is something intangible to the fact that I know the person who made this by hand that we value. And so there will be services that we can then provide for a fee. If there are cheap AI services doing everything else, you're like, this artisan concierge customer service is now provided at a higher level. So it's interesting to think about what kinds of things could become boutique industries because, this is provided by a human, and most of the time you get an AI doing it.
I see a day when, and so this is one of the weird things is with mass production, there is a longing for the slight imperfections of something that's hand crafted, but that only applies to certain things. For example, if you need like a new bottle opener, you don't care if it was carved out of a old 50-gallon oil drum. Some people do, but I don't think it's enough to.
Well, we have a bottle opener. I'm glad you picked bottle opener. That is mounted on our wall. That is R2D2 mosaic made by someone. The bottle opener itself is probably machine made, right? Yeah. But there's a human touch to it that wouldn't be there made by a machine. I don't know. There's always that, but like you say, that drive for imperfection. And you're right. There will always be things that we don't really want humans to make.
Well, eventually, I'm sure the economy will not slowly, it'll probably have an abrupt change.
Why did you take over editing the post?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that.
Roger Chang has taken over and is currently editing.
I didn't take over anything. I just clicked on it.
Well, that takes it over.
Oh, well, there. I took over.
I'm going to take it up. Take it back.
You know what?
Take it back the post.
I was trying to get to the DTNS YouTube.
Oh, really?
For some reason,
trying to get the link out of that.
No. I meant to go to the YouTube page, and I just typed, because I always type daily or youtube.com/Daily Tech News Show.
Interesting.
Interesting. It's the way it works. It's the way it works.
I mean, interesting, man.
I want a Robocook.
Yeah, we're going with I want a Robocook. Nothing surpassed it.
I would actually. That's the one thing that's always disappointed me about food processors. It's like, well, what about the final step? Cooking it.
Oh yeah. Well, people are working on that, where you just like basically 3D print cooked food.
No, I don't want 3D printed. I want it to cook.
3D print a burger. We're gonna have vat grown meat, vat grown fish, algae based, insect based foods. There's always a backlash, but there's always a backlash in other ways too. And the thing that people forget is there's not like a finite source of money or a finite source of jobs. And if you lose jobs, then jobs goes away. It's always a negotiation between people for available things. So in the long term, if people are available to do things, and before those things you couldn't afford, but the AI has made certain things cheaper, and now you can afford to pay someone for it, then there will be new jobs. But it's always in the transition of who will be able to make the transition to what those new jobs are, and is wealth available for people to afford the services? That's the bigger question. Is the economy going to make it so that people can spend money on new things?
Well, that's the big question mark.
Yeah.
I think there will be a big shift at some point along the line where, no, I somewhere along the maybe greater than the Industrial Revolution, just kind of a seismic shift in the economy.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it will mean that people will kind of like not lower expectations, but like money becomes not as a primary issue because people are now like, oh, look, I'll trade you this design for whatever, and I'll just manufacture it at home.
Yeah,
which would be cool.
If I'm not if AI makes things cheaper, then I have more money, and then I can spend that money on other things that I would never have been able to spend them on.
I don't know if AI can do healthcare, like.
And the other difference, I'm sorry, I just thought of this. We didn't see the Industrial Revolution coming, but now that we've been through it, we can prepare ourselves better. But there are probably things we don't understand about an AI revolution that will impact us.
And I mean, hindsight's always 20/20, right? You can always see all, and this is the thing about politics. I mean, it goes into anything, politics, education, whatever. You don't see those trends until you're either in the middle of it or you're on the tail end.
Yeah.
Economy is the other one.
Well, and that's why it was so good to have an Amy Webb on last month, because she was talking about, I mean, pretty much all you can do is look at trends. No one can just predict the future. There's not a solid way to do that, but you can see trends. You can try to see which trends are happening now.
There's going to be a council of AIs that'll be interesting. Like in politics, what if it comes to a point where, like, for example, either in a parliamentary or a Republican system where you basically have a chamber of legislature that's just AI.
Yeah, but we don't. That's not the way we work. If we wanted the most efficient legislature, we wouldn't have the ones we have now.
It'd be just like in Buck Rogers.
If anything, they replaced the clerks, right? And maybe there's an unexpected change because of that. Maybe there's an unmeasured influence that pages and clerks have. That's interesting to think about.
This AI purposely miswrote all these words. I think one of the ways AIs could be useful, at least in that way, is to read through all those bills that are like hundreds of pages long
and provide like summations, and
like
advice.
A TLDR. That's basically their function. All right, Bill Bot, tell me exactly in 4 sentences what this bill is about.
Well, and that's what the clerks do, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. But with the machine, it's like boom, 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 boom. Or you can replace the GAO with a bunch of AI. Maybe it'll be just like Joshua in War Games. There are no winners. You can't win.
The only winning move is not to play. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you from CES tomorrow if everything works out. Bye.